Oh, yeah, this is a good one. Kang Min Lee, who is this, I believe, is he like a Korean American or a Korean who lives in America? Because I see the double flag. Whatever. I need to follow him back. What am I even doing? We need to talk about this creator for a moment, right? Not really for what he posts. Because what he posts is his freaking freedom. A lot of the times I agree with him. There are a couple of posts that I was like, man, I don't know, man, it's a little far. But in general, I would say, yeah, fine, okay. It's your average, I imagine, conservative creator that posts things on X. We know how X works. It is what it is. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. I've had interactions with him. We follow each other. Well, I just started following him, to be honest. He's been following me for a while. He is, as he said, there we go, he's a proud Korean immigrant. So he is an immigrant. I utterly reject the Democratic Party. So we understand that's his freedom, right? He can say whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants. And in fact, I tend to agree with his positions on politics. But he had an interaction recently that I don't know if you're aware of. And I kind of want to bring it to your attention because it really made me feel like, goodness gracious, this really is the year of bending the knee to the mob. He's talking about this gentleman here that we all know. He's the guy who, Mark Lee, he's the one who, did I pronounce his name right? MKB, yeah. Marquez is his name, because we have a nickname with my wife, so that's why I keep forgetting. We call him Martinez because once I mispronounced it. Instead of Marquez, I said, hey, let's watch Martinez. And she's like, who's Martinez? And then we laughed our heads off. So now we always call him Martinez as a joke, but it's Marquez. Anyways, whenever it's either Teslas, or I don't even know if he does Teslas anymore. It's probably not, because it's become a controversial topic, I suppose. Anyways, he, like, whenever there's a new phone, we watch him sometimes, or we used to be honest. Anyways, they met in real life. I think it was accidental. I don't think they were, like, doing anything, but anyway, they took a picture together. Bro, and Kam Ling said, bro, look who I ran into at the airport. There we go. So, nothing wrong, right? It's fine. It's nice. It's, in fact, a wholesome thing. Wholesome. So, he posted it on X, and Marquez Brownlee shared a comment underneath and said, great to meet you, with a bro fist. Well, he was ratioed. He was assaulted by the, you can imagine, left-wing crowd. Of course, I don't mean every leftist. I don't need to explain that every single time. But yes, there was a massive cancel culture action where they went after him because how dare you? Are you saying that you agree with his political takes? Are you a MAGA now? That's how it went. You can imagine. So, this is what Kang Min Ling tells us. I upload a pic of me and MKBHD. MKBHD replies saying, nice to meet you. Cancel culture freaks bombard him. He deletes his tweet. God forbid a new Rush Hour reboot happen. The libs doing everything they can to prevent greatness. Yeah. So this is really, it's disappointing and disconcerting. And personally, I don't even care. You could tell me, yeah, it's probably because the guy is a left-winger. Who cares? Who cares? It's not like being polite automatically means that now, all of a sudden, he's a Trump supporter, am I right? He was just being polite. He said, great to meet you. If anything, that was a good message. This was a let's not have another Charlie Kirk message. But no, they went after him. And I find it distasteful. And as you know, I've recently posted, in other words, he was a coward. I'm just going to say coward. Stand the ground. Say, I did nothing wrong. If you really have to, at this point, it's your audience. Do whatever you want. If you really have to, make the clarification post, a wall of text where you say, guys, I disagree with all the takes, or the majority of the takes that come in Lee, and I believe that inclusivity and representation is important, and I love Kamala Harris, and I wish I could marry her. Do your post so that you do all your virtual signaling. Fine, I don't care, it's your page. But then say, in this case, though, guy was fine. We just took it's nothing wrong. I was just being polite, and I'm not going to delete this post. The reason why he didn't do that is because he knows it wouldn't work. Do you think that would work with the cancel culture mob? Absolutely not. They would say, so are you saying that you would be okay taking a picture with an actual, literal Nazi? That would be the answer. He knew it. He chickened out. So I'm going to call him a chicken. You're a chicken. Chicken. So, this happened. Before that, it was Emiru. Once again, please don't send her hatred. She's such a lovely content creator, but she did bend the knee. That's why the other day, and unfortunately the system blocked the video, it's completely shadow banned, but that's why I made a video where I said this YouTuber was cancelled because of associating with me, because Evil D, a friend of the channel, was targeted because he made collaboration videos. In fact, not even collaboration, they're reaction videos to my language content. No politics, nothing, because my second channel is only about language learning and foreign language acquisition. As a professional, I make that content. And he was just reacting to the content. And we have a little bit of a bromance kind of funny thing where, whatever, he even invited me, hey, let's play video games together on live stream, but let's do it in Mandarin, let's do it in another language. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But he was targeted for it, but he stood the ground. They didn't allow, and he's left-leaning. But he said, more of a centrist, I'll be honest with you, but whatever. We clearly don't have the same politics. It doesn't matter. He stood the ground against the cancel culture radical cultist left-wing mob that tried to cancel him. And he said, no, this is unacceptable. I'm not going to apologize for it. That's what we need. And I wish we could see it from large content creators, because when it's someone like that and then I show it, but then the video gets shadow banned, nobody sees it, we can't give a good example of what it means to be a freaking man. And unfortunately, people with the influence chicken out. And that's the reality of how it is. That's how it is. Purple hair is not natural unless you want to call her... What, Amelia? Amelia's based. Alright, so this guy says, I love being black, says Allison. And Jake responds, I love being white. And she says, he's a white supremacist. Can we gotta ditch these double standards, guys. I'm just gonna say it. We gotta ditch these double standards. Either both are wrong and we make them illegal with the fascist squads coming to your place like they did in Italy under Mussolini. You say this, well, okay, you're gonna go to prison. Not my favorite take, I'll have to say, since I'm pro freedom of speech. Or we say, no, it's fine. You can be proud of being black if it makes you happy, and you can be proud of being white if it makes you happy. But this idea that one is fine and the other one is not, absolutely not. We gotta ditch that. We gotta ditch that. It's nauseating. And I don't care how they spin it. He presented this, and he was responding to Matt Walsh, because Matt Walsh said, anime is not a fundamental part of American culture, and I really shouldn't have to explain why. Kind of a useless post, to be honest, by Matt Walsh, because I don't see who is saying that anime is a fundamental part of American culture. I think anime is obviously a Japanese culture, or subculture, we could say, that is highly enjoyed in the West. Yeah, it's not a fundamental part of American culture, but it's definitely enjoyed by his kids. Well, I mean, unless he forces them not to, I don't know. But I'm saying the majority of kids, and in fact, people my age already, are the anime generation. So this goes back, I don't know how old Matt Walsh is. He looks older than me, but then again, I look a lot younger than I actually am, so who knows? But I'm saying, I think when it comes to this kind of subculture, whenever he talks about video games or anime or this kind of stuff, it's most of the times he hasn't got a clue. I was just going to say, anyways, there was a good response by Kang-Min Lee. He says, counterpoint. Western culture portrayed by Westerners, and we'll go this, Western culture portrayed by the Japanese. I'm going to play it. Maybe not the music, so we don't get... I'm going to agree with him. Yeah, I'd rather have anime studios in Japan represent Europe, European culture, Italy, heck, ancient Rome, ancient Greece, everything. That is my ancestors, than any of these traitor studios that change everything and swap everything. So, yeah, at that point, I'd say the anime is representing our culture better than we do. Am I right? Look at this. Now, I don't think waging war to anime is what we should be doing right now. In fact, even in the gaming space, it is Far Eastern studios that are making, there are some exceptions like Night's Path, but I'm saying in general, Far East is still standing strong when it comes to what gamers actually want, meaning attractive characters and no politics. However, that is apart from Capcom, but that's because Capcom bent the knee to Capcom USA. But I'm saying in general. But Western studios, yeah, it is what it is. Have you ever seen the meme, be the American, the Japanese think you are? I always thought it was funny because it's like everyone with like Guile with a crazy hairstyle, massive muscles. Oh my gosh, it's so far. Paul, once again, crazy haircut in Tekken. It looks like when the Japanese think of Americans, they think of, I don't know why, the hair is, maybe they watch too much Simpsons and they think Bart represent the average American hairstyle. I have no idea. But it is funny when you think about it this way. Anyways, the reason why I said we need to talk about... But now I'm going to show you how I start my every morning. It's a recent thing. I'll promise. The picture I'm going to show you now, it's a recent development, but I decided to starting my mornings with something that I love and something that kind of gives me the nostalgia rush. I've become a little addicted to the nostalgia rush, but hey. So this is how I started this morning, yesterday morning, the day before, and I have to say I plan on continuing. I'm not going to say what it is. Yeah, you're already saying kind of, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want to see who figures it out first. In 3, 2, 1. That's the beginning of every morning. That's the beginning of every morning, my friends. Who can recognize the machine? Amiga, Commodore, both. It's a Commodore Amiga, but can you recognize the model? And do you know the year at this point? Yeah, it's a Commodore Amiga. It's kind of a recent purchase, in fact, because I've had the previous model, the Amiga 500. I've had that for a while now, years. But I've recently bought this from a collector. That's why it's like the beige is perfect, not even a little bit of yellowing. I bought this from specifically a Commodore collector from Rome, and he sent it to me from Italy. Amiga 2000. Oh no, the Amiga 2000 would be a massive desktop. No, 1992 to be specific. This is a 1992 machine. You're becoming the Italian 8-bit guy, absolutely, maybe 16-bit guy. But yeah, for sure. Now, it's an Amiga 1200. This is an Amiga 1200, which was the model. So they started with the Amiga line starts with Amiga 1000, which looks kind of like a desktop with the pizza box. If you remember the ones that we didn't have the tower just yet, you had the pizza box version. Amiga 1000, pretty powerful machine. I think it came out in 85. You'll have to double check the date on that. Then in 87, they came out with the Amiga 500, which was a low cost, mostly used for gaming, but you could work with it. It's that one. Since we're talking about games, check this out. Be like, but that's not a game. No, wait. You'll see what I mean. So this is currently religion in South Korea, which, by the way, I wasn't aware of. I didn't know. So it seems like the country is literally split in two between Christianity and Buddhism. Now, I don't know. Do you know what type of Christianity this is going to be? I wonder if it's Catholicism, but then again, they're not distinguishing between different Buddhist sects or religions anyway, so I guess they're just doing a whole thing. But you know what this looks like to me? And if you know, you know. I know some of you won't get the reference, but if you know, you know. This looks like what you get when you have a civilization game and you have two civilization players and they both have the exact same amount of faith, they make the exact same amount of monk units, and then each turn they preach their religion onto the same territory. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had that into a game? Because man, it gets annoying. It's like you preach your religion, so the percentage goes up, and then the other player on his turn preach their religion, and then it goes down again, and you get like this 50-50 split. I've seen that happen so much, and it's funny because it looks like that on the map with the color, each religion having its own color. You say Orthodox, maybe, but there is a lot less Orthodox than there are Catholics. That's why I said Catholics. Korean Christianity is mostly Presbyterian and charismatic Pentecostal. Really? I had no idea. Fascinating, though. Of course, I'm rooting for the Christian religion, but I am biased. The spin is not over. Oh, you know what? I can sympathize with this. So if any of you is watching now from the UK, I have to sympathize with this because I experienced England and Wales. I've never been to Scotland. I've never been to Northern Ireland, because do remember, I know it gets confusing and I get confused myself, but we have to remember that when you say United Kingdom, you mean England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. That's the United Kingdom. When you say the British Isles, you mean everything including Ireland. Still in the British Isles, at least as far as I understand. When you say Britain, then you mean England, Wales, and Scotland, but not Northern Ireland. And of course, when you say England, you only mean that England. It's quite obvious that that's what it means. So like depending, and then Great Britain, wait a second, Great Britain, then what's the difference between United Kingdom and Great Britain? Maybe Britain is actually England and Wales, and Great Britain includes Scotland. Yeah, I think, you see, I still get confused. I think I'm right, though. I think I'm correct with that one. It's a bit like one of those situations when you have to see the difference between Scandinavia and Nordic countries. They are different countries. Not every Nordic country is a Scandinavian country, but every Scandinavian country is Nordic. That is because Nordic means everything, but Scandinavia is like 3, and so the other 2 don't count as Scandinavians. That's how it is. So we use these terms improperly all the time. Natives and non-natives alike. I'd like to underline, because then again, if I get something wrong, hey, it's my second language. What do you want from me? I can use that. But if you're native and you still get these stuff wrong, then It's not your fault, but it is the educational system fault, isn't it? And man, I'll be honest with you, I have a lot of respect for Americans. I love America, and you guys are awesome at a lot of things. You're more precise than us Italians. You're more professional. You get stuff done. Your work routine, it's fantastic. I love a lot of things about Americans, but man, you don't know geography. I'm just going to tell you that. You haven't got a clue. You haven't got a clue. Literally. I've been speaking to Americans, and they tell me that we're discussing Spain, we're discussing Brazil, and they get confused. Like, Brazil is right next to Spain, right? I'm like, no, that's Portugal. Brazil. Oh my gosh, Brazil is literally underneath you guys. I mean, I don't know, come on. Yeah, so geography, I think it's not your greatest suit when it comes to the American educational system, at least for what I could see so far. And if you're good sports, you'll give me that one. What's your opinion on pre-Raphaelite length of hair? Exactly. Denmark is Nordic, but not Scandinavian. You're absolutely right. France is technically next to Brazil. Technically, yeah. If you really want to look at it that way. Oh, that's funny. I also think it's because maps do not represent the correct sizes. I think that confuses people too. I wonder why we do it that way. I think we should represent correctly the physical size of continents and countries. In fact, I think I'd like to get a map like that. What do you think of pre-Raphaelite length of hair, which is this, by the way? This is pre-Raphaelite length of hair. I support it. I think it's awesome. Thing is, though, I'm a little bit of a minority when it comes to this line of thinking, but I support it on both men and women for obvious reasons. But yeah, it was very common. It's called like this pre-Raphaelite because it was very common as an artistic device in paintings of like the 1800s. There are a lot of paintings that represent this. And at the end of the day, it's sort of a callback to medieval ideals of beauty. And if you look at medieval iconography, so there is, of course, a distinction in social status. If you see peasant women, you don't usually see the super long hair. You either see their hair kept inside of something, so they're covering it, or when it's lower, it's usually like, yeah, kind of shoulder length, but I don't remember. When you see like this length of hair in medieval iconography, they are all noble women. When it comes to men, it is long, but then again, do keep in mind that when you say long hair for a man, it would be already shoulder length is pretty long for him. So shoulder length is actually quite common in medieval iconography, unless you look at Norman hairstyles, then it's shaved on the sides and back and shortened at the top, completely different. But when it comes to the rest of the medieval period, like that's kind of the extreme on the short end. A knight has short hair in the Norman tradition. Then in general European tradition, usually knights have not this length, but they have kind of shoulder length hair. And a lot of the times in iconography, sometimes they have fringes though. So a good way to picture it is think of rock and metal, like heavy metal bands of the 80s, when guys had long hair but with a fringe or what do you call it, bangs, because that would be this. And the reason why they did it, by the way, is because by cutting your hair short here, you ensure that even though you have the length, that kind of shows your status, because you're a nobleman, you can take care of it, you don't need to work the fields. At the same time, and they also liked it, I think, but it doesn't impede you in combat. If it ever happens that you lose the helmet and you need to fight, you don't have to constantly have the hair in front of your eyes, like situations like that. I think that's why it's out of practice. A bit like, you know how the Japanese samurai used length of hair to represent social status and specifically military class, but they also solved the problem of what if it gets in front of your eyes. They just went a little extreme and they shaved the whole top. I think at this point I'll go for the 1980s rock band bangs of the medieval knights. At this point I'm going to do that. But anyways, then you also have, of course, the other end of the spectrum, which is Merovingian kings, because Merovingian high nobility actually had length of hair that was probably almost as long as mine. So very, very long, but that's a special thing because it was really, I'm not even sure why they did it. I know they did it as a way to represent, because usually long hair is connected to social status and nobility. So they're like, we're going to go extreme to be like, we're even more special. But there is also a connection to mysticism, the ideal of the long-haired Jesus of Nazareth, that it's in every icon, all over the place in iconography, which, by the way, the connection of divinity with long hair in a bearded man was already a thing in classical antiquity, because we have Zeus. and Jupiter, who is a long-haired, bearded man. So that was already a thing that was established in classical antiquity, regardless of the fact that Roman tradition, should I say, favored a more of a shaven look and short hair for a civilized man. But then again, there were exceptions, like a philosopher. You can have like very long beard. In fact, they were proud of it, and kind of longish hair. That's fine because you're a philosopher, right? It's not really too different to the way we classify people. We do that all the time. Like a lot of the times I say, like sometimes people ask me, like, man, you've got really long hair. Are you a metalhead? I'm like, incidentally, I am. But look how there has to be a reason. Like this guy has really long hair. Well, these days, sometimes they think I'm transitioning, but regardless of that, I'm saying that generally speaking, people kind of have to have a reason when something is out of the norm. So for me, if someone is like, are you a metalhead? I'm like, yeah. Then they go, oh, so like now it makes sense. And it's interesting because I think we have that in every civilization. Whenever there is a social norm and a social standard, the outliers of that standard still have to fit into predetermined boxes that allow the outlier to exist without you thinking, is this guy weird? And some of us don't even know that we're thinking that, but we do.